Dollar Tree looks real too. You want me to go through that again, or you're all set? Okay, good, thank you. Absent at the moment is Mr. Bush and Mr. Costa. Okay. Approval of the planning board minutes of November 7th, 2024. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? And if there are none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler, second by Ms. Rashich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Number 3, zoning board of review recommendation, owner applicant Charles Lambro, location 2700 Diamond Hill Road, assessors plat 28, lot 16, zoning R1 with public water and no sewer. The applicant requests zoning relief to construct a one-bedroom accessory dwelling unit that is 1,480 square feet, where 800 square feet is permitted by town ordinance and 900 square feet by state statute. This item was continued from the November 7th, 2024 meeting. The applicant is requesting this item be continued to the January 30th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. Is any representative here? Okay. Okay. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we continue the item to the January 30th Planning Board meeting.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler, seconded by Ms. Reese. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 4, preliminary plan extension, comprehensive permit, preliminary plan, major land development, owner, Oneyville Housing Corporation, DBA, One Neighborhood Builders, applicant One Neighborhood Builders. Project name Steeple and Stone, location 295 and 305 Broad Street, assessors plat 4, lots 266 and 264. Zoning is C1 with public water and sewer. The applicant requests the first one-year by right extension of preliminary plan approval. Anyone here from, okay.
Go.
I was quite happy with Glenn handling it for me. Mr. Chair, members, I'm Ken McGonigal, the attorney for One Neighborhood Builders. And as you read, we are here seeking our first extension. I do believe that my client, Michelle Blue, is on Zoom just in case we needed her. I did want to thank Glenn for the staff report. And since this was our first request for an extension, I didn't think you wanted us to present much other than request our
Yeah,
extension.
if there was anything that you wanted to add for any reasoning for the extension, that's fine.
Well, you know, we are heavily dependent on the Rhode Island housing funding, and that takes a long time. You know, we did not get it last year, but that's not unusual at all. A lot of the projects that get built from Rhode Island housing don't get funding the first or maybe second year, and then third, it gets it, because we kind of improve things and look for ways to lower the costs and so on, and that's what's happening right now. So we are very much behind it, and we look forward to
Okay, whatever, any
having
other
that
questions?
built.
Do you have any idea what your chances are in this coming year?
I don't, actually. You know, it's competitive, but one thing that adds some excitement to us is the fact that the state did pass the affordable housing bond. And you know, that the way that money tends to get given out is when projects have a gap in their financing. That's where, so we think that that'll be helpful. It definitely will help our chances.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a timeline for the next round of funding, or?
It's every year, around the end of December, early January is when the applications are due. And then there's so many that it takes them a couple of months to get through them and make the decision. So March to April is when that'll be due.
Great. As you know, I'm a huge proponent of this project, so every time I drive by, I wish I was seeing cranes and people working in it, but I understand the finances are extremely difficult and competitive right now.
So are we.
I'll make a motion that we approve the one-year extension of the preliminary plan approval.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler and a second by Mr. Scown. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries, so the chair votes yes.
Thank you and happy holidays. See you
Thank you.
as soon as we can be back.
Thank you. Item number 5. Abby, I believe this is yours? Okay. Comprehensive permit, minor land development preliminary plan, owner applicant Slim Investments LLC, William LaValle. Project name 1394 Mendon Road, location 1394 Mendon Road, assessors plat 58, lot 6. Zoning is C1 with public water and sewer, and also a notation of Ashton Historic District. The applicant seeks comprehensive permit approval to convert an existing commercial unit to a deed-restricted, affordable residential apartment, so that one of the 4 total residential units will be affordable. The applicant requests waivers from residential density, parking space, setback, and commercial use of the property.
Great. Good evening, Planning Board. So the applicant is seeking approval for a comprehensive permit to convert a former mixed-use building into an all-residential building at 1394 Mendon. I'd also like to note that this is currently sitting as a vacant building. The building previously had 2 commercial spaces on the ground floor with 2 apartments on the upper floors. As it's already been mentioned, it's located in both the C1 zone and the Ashton Historic District. So the proposal is to convert the ground floor commercial spaces into 2 residential apartments, which will result in 4 apartments in total, where 1 will be affordable. The property includes 11 parking spaces, which exceeds the minimum requirement of 1 space per unit under a comprehensive permit. There are no exterior changes or site improvements occurring, so the Historic District Commission will not be reviewing the project. There are 3 requested waivers for residential density, no commercial use in a C1 zone, and parking setbacks. The Planning Department recommends approval of the comprehensive permit application and the requested waivers. Because the project is consistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan, it contributes to the town's affordable housing goals and utilizes the existing infrastructure effectively. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions?
I just had one question. Just because we don't usually see a lot of 4-bedroom apartments, does the 4-bedroom apartment already exist and that's why? Or are they,
No, there's 2
they're taking
apartments.
two bedrooms and combining them into a 4-bedroom?
Sorry, ask the question again.
So there's a 4-bedroom apartment, which
Yeah,
just
yeah.
seems unusual. And I was just wondering if that already exists or if they're combining apartments to make a 4-bedroom?
I don't. Okay.
It currently exists?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We'll hear from the applicant.
How are you? Good.
Good evening.
Good evening. William LaValle.
Anything else to add at this point?
No.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Okay,
Pretty straightforward.
all right. I'll entertain a motion then.
Do we need to take public comment? Or?
Actually, it's a public hearing, so yes, we do. Yep, okay. So you can take a seat and this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience that has any questions or comments with respect to this application, please come forward to the podium and give us your name and address for the record. Seeing none, Mr. Mordecai, is there anybody in the queue?
If you'd like to speak to this item, click the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Please state your name and address for the record. Don't see anybody.
I'll close the public hearing at this point and restrict comments to the board. Board, anything else to add to this? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just reviewed the staff recommendation. The only thing I want to be clear is the decision needs to include the required findings for approval. They're in there? Oh, I'm not seeing that. Let me just look at the, yeah, I'm not, oh, I just missed this page. Forget it. So the required findings are included in the staff recommendation. I just didn't see it. You get it right a lot.
Relative to the waivers, do we want to vote on the waivers separately, or do we make it all inclusive in one motion?
You can, as you normally do. There was a long
Yeah.
blank spot, and I just didn't go to the next page. My fault.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Butler.
Mr. Chairman, regards to 1394 Mendon Road, I'll make a motion that we approve the comprehensive permit, minor land development preliminary plan, which includes waivers from residential density, commercial use, and parking space setback, based on the findings of fact in Ms. McVery's memo to the planning board dated November 25th, 2024.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Scown. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes, the motion carries. Where's the applicant? He's still there?
Yep, he's back there.
You're good to go. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, for the record, please note that Mr. Costa has entered the chambers at 6:45 PM. Next item of business, item 6, public hearing, major land development, master plan unified development review, owner applicant Bill Casillas, WPA Associates LLC, project name Angelo's Ground Mounted Solar, location 127 Mendon Road, assessors plat 11, lot 64. The applicant seeks to construct a medium-scale ground-mounted solar array and requires a special use permit. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a ground-mounted solar project behind the parking lot at Angelo's Restaurant, 1394 Mendon Road. It requires a special use permit, and here all the specific and objective criteria are being met. As the staff report notes regarding setbacks and buffers, there's a discrepancy between a required 10-foot setback and a 20-foot buffer. So when there's a conflict like this in the zoning ordinance, the least restrictive standard applies in favor of the applicant. So that would be the 10-foot setback. We had a TRC meeting, Technical Review Committee meeting. At the meeting, Captain Iozzi brought up the potential for glare off the solar panels. The applicant has submitted a glare analysis that indicates only a very small percentage of light will be reflected by the panels. We received the public comment, which we forwarded to the board regarding safety, fire suppression, and fire mitigation. The fire department has reviewed the master plan and they have no objection to the project. They're going to continue to review the project preliminary plan, and before any permits are issued, they're also going to receive copies of electrical diagrams so the facility can be shut down if needed. Also, as part of the special use permit requirements, the applicant will submit an operation and maintenance plan that will identify access to the installation and the maintenance of the facility. Overall, the planning department finds that this application is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan definitely supports alternative energy sources. We're recommending approval with 2 conditions. The first is to continue to work with the planning department and engineer to ensure that the 7-foot fence around the solar panels will screen the panels from abutters. They did provide a drawing showing the along Main Street, but we want to continue to discuss the visibility along the entire perimeter of the installation. Regarding landscape, we recommended robust and continuous tree planting around the panels. Obviously, we don't want to impede the solar panels and they're collecting light, but if you look at your staff report, the photo on the bottom of page 8, a lot of trees were cut down earlier this year. So what we're basically looking for is replacement tree planting on the property to compensate for the loss of what's been cut down and what will be cut down. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a wall of trees around these panels, but since trees are being cut down, we're looking for a landscape plan to mitigate that loss. So again, overall, we find the project is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and we are recommending approval of the master plan.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Modica? Mr. Butler?
Just one. We got the letter from Mr. Swanson at Valley Affordable Housing saying that as abutters, at least the abutters he represents, that they weren't interested in having robust vegetation.
Right.
So where do you guys,
I think the fence will screen it. That's the most important thing, screen the solar panels. And if there's a way with the loss of the trees to install this facility, to plant trees, maybe not necessarily along the panels, but there's some opportunity along Main Street and perhaps other parts of the property to offset that loss.
Anyone else?
What is the requirement on the fire suppression system? That is not totally required at this point, is that correct?
Not yet, no. So we'll get to that preliminary plan, and Chief Anderson will look at that. He's going to have to sign off eventually on this.
Okay, but it's not a requirement, is that?
A fire suppression? I don't believe it's a requirement for the special use permit. I'm not sure if the fire department, if that's their requirement.
I understand that part, but it is not a requirement of the project initially, so. Okay.
Right.
All right. I mean, there is additional expense involved with that, so that's a concern. It's outside, it's not on a roof,
Right.
you know. So I'd like to see why it would be necessary in that particular instance.
Okay, gotcha.
I think we can ask the applicant or his representative specifically what would be required, or what, if anything, has there ever been any problems with solar panels? Mr. McDonald?
Just what you said about the trees, am I correct in inferring that the number of trees, the placement of trees is still up for negotiations?
The number to be planted?
Yes.
Correct. A landscape plan is required at preliminary plan.
Okay. Thank you.
I think what we could do, what we could do is, Ms. Reisman, we could ask Mr. D'Ambrosio for some of his expertise as far as what he thinks should be appropriate
trees.
at the time when the plans come to us during preliminary. Ms. Reese?
Okay, my question is, do we know how many towns have a miniature solar panels installed right in the middle of the town?
Like how many towns in Rhode Island?
In Rhode Island.
I couldn't tell you.
Are we the first ones?
So what do you mean by in the middle of town, though? This is
Well,
like
it's
off the
right-
highway?
Yeah, yeah, right next to somebody's house. Usually, these panels are remote a little remote
Like an open space or farm?
from
Usually they're
open
on
spaces and a
farms
little
or things.
remote, not plopped right in the valley like today.
Yeah, I can't tell you of similar circumstances.
I would think there are. I
You
can't come
think
up.
so? Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of solar development. Most of them are rural and they're huge.
Yeah,
This is a
rural,
small one.
Right.
So I can't tell you.
Mr.
Maybe Mr.
Partington?
Casali can, or somebody else. I think there's a solar guy here.
Any solar people that can answer that? I'm just
In,
wondering.
she's talking about dense areas, so. Yeah, so he could, he can testify to that when he gets
Okay.
up. Because
Thank you.
I can't, I usually do the big, the larger ones. But we do have one in Cumberland at a house, and we have one in a mill area. So there are, so there are already in Cumberland solar developments.
In open spaces, more
Well,
so
no,
than.
There's one on the 35 Martin Street has them on those parking shelters. And then,
Yeah,
what's the other one I was just thinking? Oh, the same owner, but on Diamond Hill Road, which is a house. Oh, okay, yeah. So I'm going to let others
Okay,
testify to
thank
that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Modica.
Thank you.
We'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening, members of the planning board. As usual, Mr. Modica, Scott Partington, by the way, for the applicant. Mr. Modica has done a great job of setting forth the planning department's and staff's recommendations and substantiating the reasons for those recommendations. A couple of things I did want to note, though, just a couple of things. One was that I think there was a reference in the staff report to the entire area, opaquing fence enclosing the area. I believe the opaque fence is only my understanding is it's 85 linear feet across Main Street, correct? As opposed to the enclosing the area, the opaque fence? Okay, well, that's going to be part of, I don't want to jump into the next part of the presentation in any event. Also, the actual solar panel, I think the height has been a concern of the planning department to the neighbors. And so the opaque fence is 7 feet with a 16-inch lift on the bottom. The rats must be really big in Cumberland, I guess. But in any event, that's what the ordinance requires. With respect to the height of the panels, 7-foot opaque fence, there was, with the slope, there is, I believe you have something, and I believe Mr. Lavery and Mr. Casali can address this. There was a 9-foot height on the pitch. It's actually a little bit lighter than that. It's 7.8 inches, 7 feet 8 inches. So that's a little bit lower than anticipated. So it makes even. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So is that something that changed since these plans were developed? Because I'm looking at the detail right now.
Right.
Saying 10 to 12 feet.
You've got, that's one that shows the 9-foot height. You have that one?
Yeah, 10 to 12 foot average height is what the detail says here.
All right, I've got, I'll make sure that, what's that? That was updated this week, okay.
Okay.
All right, so, and again, but but you had the 9 feet on that though, right, Bill? Yeah, all right, so, and I guess it's actually 7, 8 at this point. With respect to the landscape plan, Mr. Monica called me this afternoon, I really appreciated the call. We had a discussion about it, a very good discussion, and I think there's room to move here. You've got a situation where it's situated in, granted, there is residence to the rear. We have a very nice letter that was mentioned earlier from Valley Affordable, opining on the robust and continuous trees, which we appreciate. You've got basically only 10 feet. If you look at the coverage, which meets the statutory or the ordinance requirements of lot coverage, there's really not a whole lot of area to plant. And Mr. Modica had talked about the fact that it wasn't so much for the screening in this instance, which certainly helps because that enclosing the entire array would be incredibly expensive. So there would be, I think there's movement there, and we're going to continue to confer with the planning department on that. And some of that's going to be addressed too in Mr. Casali's presentation. So again, I didn't want to add too much. Most of what Mr. Monica said is correct. As you can see, there are no variances required, just a special use permit. He set forth the specific and objective criteria for the solar array, all of which has been met. With that, I'm going to allow Mr. Casali's office to take it from here. And I also have someone here from Infusion, the solar engineers as well. I know when we were before the the zoning board for the roof mount last month, there were some technical questions for those individuals. So I wanted to make sure that we had someone present in case there was any questions about that as well. All right. Oh, and Ms. Reese, as far as I know there's at least one neighborhood. I did a house up on Diamond Hill Road for the solar panels. And as Ms. Salvatore indicated, I think there are actually 3, although I know there was a problem with one on Martin Street.
The Martin Street is a roof panel, not
Yeah,
a ground panel.
Right.
All right, it's a different, yeah.
And I'm also going to Mr. Casali address that
Right.
for you too. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to be complete in my answer to you because I was taken a little off guard by the question. I think it's important to note that the zoning ordinance that, as approved by the town council and as recommended by the planning board, allows for solar panels in this zoning district if they meet certain specific and objective criteria. You are now, as of January 1st, acting as a zoning board as well as a planning board. So this is new to you. And the other thing that's new is that the state requires us to have this specific and objective criteria, which some people may not meet. But it is my understanding that the planning staff has determined that it does meet the criteria. Therefore, the use is allowed. So I just want to be clear that even if there isn't a similar situation in Cumberland or a similar town, Cumberland has decided that this use should be permitted in this zone if it meets that criteria that's listed in the recommendation. So I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, I understand that. Doesn't mean that I agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah, well, and I'm just letting
Yeah.
you know your
Right.
your role, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Casali.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just for the record, my name's Joe Casali. I'm a registered professional engineer with offices at 300 Post Road in Warwick. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, quickly go through a PowerPoint presentation. But Ms. Reese, just to answer your question, I do know of similar fields that you'll see in northern Rhode Island. Route 44 in Gloucester, there's a small one right across from the Gloucester Country Club in there. I know that in 102 in Foster and Route 6 in Foster, 2 small fields visible. I do recall one, Kilvert Street in Warwick. We recently worked on one. It was the end of a residential cul-de-sac in North Kingston, put a small field there. Adler Brothers in Smithfield, in North Providence on the landfill, and even on Route 295 in Johnston, just quick ones that I can think of. Some of the larger ones are in more rural areas, but I think more and more you're seeing them in the urban areas because representatively it has to do with the grid and what it needs and what it can accept in terms of renewable energy.
The reason I ask is that I like to visualize it, like where are they in, and the one that on Martin Street to me is not the same. I can't compare one with the other. So
Yeah.
that's,
I hope some of these pictures help
Okay.
help us all visualize it a little better, but if I may. So you're familiar with the area, Broad Street, Mendon Road, and the subject parcel, specifically Assessors Plat 11, Lot 64. Large piece for the area, 2.3 acres. You all know it houses the existing Angelo's Pizza. When you look closer at the piece, you can see the subject zone. It's in the C2 commercial zone, which will allow via a special use permit the use of solar. It does have a historic district nearby. It is also, as you correctly stated, abutted by an R3, and there's some existing multi-household dwellings there. And then the rest of the parcel, we've got some light industrial and some commercial C1 zones. But when you look at the piece, it is unique in character. While it has no bearing on the subject application, there is a through easement along Mendon Road to Main Street for access. There's also a DOT drainage easement. And we had some freshwater wetlands delineated, believe it or not, in the urban area in June of 2024. And so we have a DEM jurisdictional buffer zone that we need to stay away from. Couple that with the building envelope, and you can see how small of an area really is left for the panels. What you're seeing there is about 19,250 square feet. As we discussed, it's going to be encompassed by a fence. That fence is going to be no higher than 7 feet, and it'll have the 16 inches to let the critters cross back and forth. So that circumference, that area now within the red fence is a little bit more than a half acre. It's about 27,000 square feet. There is a small concrete pad to house some of the appurtenances that are typical with the solar arrays. That's the type of fencing that you will see. They can come now today in a variety of colors. They can come slatted so that we can maximize the privacy and have that visual separation that I think is important. This is the updated detail. Most of these panels, if not all of them, are going to be at least 3 feet off of the ground with the average height of about 8. We understand none of them will exceed the 12 feet per ordinance, and you can see that green, that's a 4-foot wide erosion mat just for some of the drainage. In speaking of what we can see from a typical section, and that's the typical section closest to Main Street. I figured that was the most important. Fortunate for us, as you all know, the grade drops significantly there. So even with an 8-foot high panel, 3 feet off the ground, that 7-foot high fence will carry the day in terms of visual view shed. There's no way of completely hiding the top of the panels and not having any sunlight exposure. But from a straight ahead look as the crow flies, you can see that because of the change in grade in the specific site, we should be able to bury these panels nicely within the existing landscape. That's a shot we took from Main Street in the back. Again, you can see the thick cover, and if you look closely, we're trying to capture that reduction in grade. In terms of grading, one of the niceties about solar is we don't need to change any grade. So there doesn't need to be, while the trees need to be cleared, we're not going to have a huge flat site here as if we were putting a building. We're going to mimic that on the existing grades as the way they are and try to hide them to the maximum extent practicable. In terms of drainage, we're going to have a water quality trench. Everything moves easterly down the hill. And that's all going to put itself into an infiltration basin that'll ultimately discharge into the freshwater wetlands. As we do with all the solar projects, we expect reductions in peaks, reductions in volumes. And then just in terms, Mr. Chairman, why we're here, again, just for the Unified Development Master Plan review, also as was well stated, a special use permit allowing the photovoltaic in the C2 zone. And then ultimately, we still need to come back to you with a freshwater wetlands permit in hand, back for our preliminary and then final plan review. Again, we would be happy. We also have a solar expert here with us if there are some specific operational and maintenance questions. The applicants, as you all know, pretty prominent in town. They're here as well to answer questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Butler?
Mr. Casale, just following up on the question earlier, so the fence surrounds the entire array?
Yes.
Okay. And where is the access point for maintenance and stuff? Is that down, like in the Angelo's parking lot?
It will, and it will be so that we can, what needs to be maintained was that concrete pad, that yellow pad. I just want to see if I can bring it up so that we can get back and forth to the transformers and the emitters and so forth and so on. But you'll also always have the ability to get in between any of these panels, get around these panels. I know fire was a question. I've probably done about a dozen of these, small and large. I've never heard of fire suppression warranted. It's not a habitable structure. And so, you know, a lot of times what I've been told from the maintenance is you let them burn out and then you replace them. So you wouldn't have any type of cistern there. While we do have water on Mendon Road and a hydrant, and I'm sure fire would be there, I don't know of any type of sprinkler system or cistern on, for the solar panels, predominantly because they're inhabitable, but I understand there's a concern with the metals and so forth and so on that are housed inside them.
Okay, Mr. D'Ambrosio?
So I know we're not at preliminary, so there's no landscape plan just yet. Looking at this particular plan, it looks like clearing happened within the wetland buffer.
It did.
So is it within the future plans to reintroduce and reestablish that wetland?
Yeah, we've had pre-application meetings with DEM, and consequently, some trees were cleared within the buffer. They are allowing us to proceed with our preliminary determination and our remediation the same. So you will see at the next iteration a landscape plan stamped by a local landscape architect that will cover the remedial plants for DEM and also the plantings for your local ordinance.
Okay.
Stone?
And, sorry, I have one more
Oh, I'm sorry.
follow-up question. I noticed on the plans right now, it's calling for loam and seed underneath the panels, which obviously requires maintenance. So is the idea that someone's going to be out there mowing constantly?
Yeah,
or
part of the application, and this won't be filed as a QPA, a qualified pervious area. A lot of times we've done that with different solar arrays and we've had to mow the grass, but we'll have an O&M agreement in this. My guess is they'll mow it probably quarterly. It'll be some type of, you know, grass fallow that'll be there that won't need to be maintained. The longer the better, the longer the concentration time, the time of concentration, and better for the wetlands. But we've got to maintain them so that they're, you know, they're not overgrown and they're, and that we can still, I would say, pass and repass up and down the roads.
yeah, I know. I'm a landscape architect, so in my line of work, I've dealt with this. They do have various seed mixes that are conducive to solar panels. Where
Correct.
they don't get too high, they're low maintenance, so just something to consider.
Yeah, we're going to engage specifically Diane Soul. I don't know if you dealt with her, longtime landscape architect out of Smithfield, Rhode Island. And we anticipate, you know, I understand the conversation went from replanting what we can to the maximum extent practicable, and I think that's fair. Respectfully, we don't want to see the neighbors any more than they don't want to see our operations.
Thank you.
Mr. Scum?
In regard to the fence, you're saying it's 7 feet, but there's 16 inches below it. Is it now 8 feet, 4 inches height?
No, so the actual gridded fence is about 5 feet, 8 inches. But the top of the fence, which is most important for zoning, will be 7 feet. You'll have about 5 feet, 8 inches below that, and then 16 inches for the critter crossing on the
I
bottom.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
fair question.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Butler?
Mr. Casale, when it comes to maintenance, is the applicant maintaining the solar array, or are they contracting with a solar company that's going to maintain the array and the maintenance and all that stuff?
No, we'll be doing that locally, and we will have an operation and maintenance filing with DEM that will put all of that in writing. It'll be recorded in the land evidence records because they're so local and it's such a simple maintain. I envision it's all going to be done in-house with Angelo's personnel, so forth and so on.
Thank you.
Ms. McDonald?
Just one question. It's purely aesthetic, the fence, opaque fence. What's its proposed appearance, the material, the coloration?
I think we're open for discussion. You know, it needs to be a chain link fence. It can be wrapped in PVC, of course. It can be slatted in, it can be colored, and I think we're open to that. And I think the owner, Bill, wants to say a
Well,
few
on,
words.
on the
Why don't we
Bill
introduce him?
Kitsillis, okay, Bill Kitsillis. So, thanks. I just want to jump in because there's already an existing fence on the top line of the property from Main Street, runs perpendicular to Mr. Catano's house we've met, and then it goes across the top there that Valley Affordable Housing put in years ago. So that fence there, I've met with Mr. Catano and his wife Gail to talk about what kind of meshing you guys are open to, if they're green meshing or black meshing. Sorry, turn away. So I've been in touch with the neighbors. They've been our long-standing neighbors for 35 years. Yeah, something like that. And we've cut trees down together. He's asked me permission to cut trees down because they've obstructed his property, put something, he can come testify and talk for himself. So we're willing to work on that. And I also just wanted to kind of put out, there's a unique demographic here, and we've been part of this community in town since 1978. So I'm not looking to put an albatross in the middle of a neighborhood. And when I looked at this project, we were kind of concerned, how does it affect like our reputation as business owners in the community and stewards of the community, and where it fits, and what other use can I use this property for? And when we looked at it, there's the hills like this. And not only that, where my property line is, and before you get to Main Street, there's another buffer of land that's owned by Valley Affordable Housing, maintained by Mr. Catano actually, for years. And the hill goes up even further. And so when you stand up there and look over the hill, you don't see the face of that hill from the neighbor's perspective. And then when you add a 7-foot fence, and when you see a lot of the requests for the greenery and the landscape design, the reason is it's because the panels are 10, 12 feet high over the fence. The town doesn't want to change its ordinance to put in a 12-foot fence because it looks ugly everywhere. Sorry, I talk fast, I'm Greek.
He's cramping.
So you put in all the trees and stuff to cover the view of that. I would like to point out that that area that I cleared a year ago, we literally cleared it because it was getting so unmanageable. It was smashing the fence, knocking everything down, and we clean up there. Like right now, I got 2-3 couches from the Main Street side that I got to clear out of there. It's a constant maintenance issue on that side of the thing. So I'm looking forward to adding the fence on Main Street to help prevent that. But with that said, if you look at the front of my property, some of the land's mine, some of it's not land. My brother-in-law, who does landscaping, my sister's here, he'll be the one stuck maintaining that hill. He's the one that has planted in the last 15 years. I think we've planted close to 75 trees and spruces and bushes on the front perimeter of that property. We take a lot of pride in it. And I'm happy to work with the neighbors to the extent they want any arborvitaes or something a little more palatable on their side to decorate it. On Main Street at the top, there's no room for me to plant, it's town property. And if you go up there, if you got that image that you showed on Main Street, there's a row of trees that are on town property on both sides of that street. Those trees right there, those aren't coming down, the ones on the left. See where that car is? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 trees there, and there's 3 corresponding trees on the other side. So that coverage to that area from those tenants across the street from the solar project, that's not changing. What's changing is some of those trees that are deeper, further down, that are overgrown, where I got two old couches down there right now that you see when the leaves fall off. So hopefully that'll go away. And on the other side with the neighbors, the reason why I know this is I talked to Mr. Catano. He thanked me for taking down the trees because it brought sunlight to his property. And the house butting him, one of my team members lives there, and she's like, yeah, we've loved the sun ever since you took down those trees. So I don't know if there's other objections here, that's fine, but it just happens to work that topography, really, you don't see the solar array system. In fact, putting the fence up probably causes more of obstruction than the solar panel system. But with that said, I think I've really appreciated the work of Glenn's office and everyone. And, you know, I just had to jump in on that whole fence thing because it's already existing, a big portion of that chain link fence. We'll beautify it by making it opaque. Happy to work with what materials necessary. I'm not sure, Glenn, we could talk, I guess, if you need to opaque the sides that have heavy foliage from Valley Affordable Housing side and the wetland side, and on the U-Haul side, those are all trees there too. So, you know, I just think you do what makes sense and best for the area, so. happy to answer more questions as they go. Sorry to cut off your presentation.
Mr. McDonald?
So I guess Mr. McDonald is willing to work with the neighbor on the aesthetics of the fence.
Yes, I didn't realize a simple question was going to get us. But I just want to, the thrust of the question was, granted, there are trees and how, the number of trees and where they're put, but at least until such time, although it's purely aesthetic, for the people that live there, this project, if built out, what they see is a fence. And I was just concerned with what the fence was going to look like, that's all. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Mr. Scown?
I like the project, I appreciate the use of the property. The only question I have, what is the visual from Mendon Road? When you have the 7-foot fence, I mean, you still got all of these panels going up the hill.
Yeah, you will see, especially in winter months, you will see, just like you would have saw the change in grade there, the ground, you will see these panels predominantly in winter.
But I would think from Mendon Road, you really can't. I mean,
It's a
the only
stretch,
people who will
but-
see them are the people that use the drive-through or people who go to the venue on the side and park there for events. But, I mean, if you're just driving down Mendon Road, I mean,
Driving would be,
Angelo's
yeah.
and the tree and the liquor store.
But if you
Yeah.
in fairness, if you are to stand there and you can't say that they'll be completely, shaded and blocked out 100% of the time. We can't make that statement.
Okay, that's all. But like I said, I think the project's a good project.
I
so.
agree. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, the only thing that I wanted to comment on is about the fire suppression and so on. How often is there a fire at any point in time in a project like this?
We've been through TRC. I believe fire commented it. There'll be another round of TRC. And as the chief, as the marshal wants,
Yeah,
we'll
but
have to
it's
adhere
not
to it.
something that's going to happen frequently.
No, I've never worked on one that had a special cistern or a
Yeah.
hydrant there, special fire suppression. Because of the nature of the use, it's not an occupiable, there's no occupancy.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about, is it very rare that we would have a problem at any point in time? I mean, if,
With the separation, it's not,
Yeah.
that also helps.
okay.
Wasn't there a fire on Martin Street not too long ago? Wasn't there a fire on Martin Street not too long ago with solar panels?
That was a roof mounted, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what?
There was a fire in that pet warehouse on Martin Street,
Roof mounted?
but it was a roof mounted solar array, and I think the concern was that the solar array on the roof hindered the fire department's ability to fight the fire, but this isn't a roof mounted, so it's kind of a
But
different.
the question is were the panels the cause of it? Mr. Casillas, go ahead.
So I will be honest with you, because we got approved for a rooftop system, and I freaked out when I saw the fire on Martin Street. So the first thing I did was call my solar guys, and Jason McCarty go, what's going on? We're gonna, I don't want to put this on my restaurant, lose my restaurant. And they said that system didn't have a rapid shutdown built into the panels, and I asked Fran. So these panels on the rooftop that we're putting in on the restaurant and on the hill have a rapid shutdown. So if there's any malfunction and arc, the whole system automatically shuts down. So it's like a suppression system in a restaurant where the gas gets shut off and the air gets shut off. So if you have any other questions.
So that the house, the roof mount on Martin Street did not have that system?
It was a older system.
My name's Fran Pettipit, I'm with Infusion.
How,
Pettipit, P-E-T-T-E-P-I-T.
how would we know that as a planning board?
So,
This suppression system, these requirements that you people in the field know, but we as a board do not.
so we're required to put in rapid shutdown for the utilities and the state regulations now. When those panels were put on about 10 years ago, we know who installed them. They were put on with, it might have been 10 years ago, on 30 Martin Street. But it was before they instituted rapid shutdown. So a rapid shutdown will allow all the panels and electronics to shut down immediately when there's any problems with it. And we use first, tier 1 panels. So a lot of places, and that's really defined by your financial stability and how many banks are gonna back you, and really how much QC you have in your development process. So we only use tier 1 panels in our installations. We also use like and tested interoperability components. We know for a fact because that system did not have like components. So when you have connectors, inverters, panels, you want to buy them from similar manufacturers, tested and vetted.
So it doesn't make any difference whether it's a roof mount or a grounded mount?
To the fire department it does, because it's a roof.
Yeah, but how about the requirements for the solar panels on a roof compared to what we have here? Same requirements?
In
All the
term-
shut-offs?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. McDonald?
It's just a comment for the staff, I think. And I'm not advocating this, but I have the thought, and I don't disbelieve what these gentlemen are saying. But when it comes time for the next step to have, I'm just going to think out loud, a letter from the fire department that they have checked the two systems, and they will certify, if you will, that what's being proposed for this is a robust system, as opposed to the fire suppression system that's on the roof-mounted panels on Martin Street.
Well, inspection-wise, certain things have to be inspected anyway, right?
So if I may, in order for us to get 31 Diamond Hill approved, we had to have fire department approval for that and 30 Martin. So we have to run our proposals through that department anyways. So they have to approve all of our stuff before we get sign off.
Unfair question, perhaps. What's their position on that fire suppression system on Martin Street?
On ours?
No, Martin Street. To your knowledge, have they recommended upgrading that fire suppression system?
That I don't know. I really don't have any knowledge as to what that company has done.
Okay. I mean, the thrust of what I was saying is the board in the town certifying that the system that's being proposed, fire suppression, is different from what my characterization failed on Martin Street, irrespective of the process and going through the fire department to get what they have approved.
And most often, fire suppression systems are installed when batteries are involved. And there are no batteries involved here. You know, that's really where the fire suppressions come in.
Well, this is all new, you know, how much, now that farms are in, houses are starting to have more and more solar panels. I can see that from generation to generation of solar panels, they're gonna improve them as they go along, based on the problems that they've had in the past. But it's new to everyone.
Regulations have tightened up.
Yeah.
Fire regulations, legal, you know, they're all tighter because there's more of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Partington, is there any?
I anticipated that there would be questions about the Martin Street situation. I know we had another individual from Infusion that addressed those similar questions and concerns with the zoning board for the special use permit for the roof mount. One of the projects that I had done, the one on Diamond Hill, is a ground system in the residential area. I think, again, I certainly don't have the technical expertise with respect to fire suppression. I'm using that term broadly as it relates, not specifically as it relates to the array, except that I think enough, there's been enough upgrades, for want of a better word, that's not the technical term either, but upgrades to the system, and the differences between this system and the one that had the issues on Martin Street, I think have been addressed. I spoke to Chief Anderson personally, both at the TRC and after this, and any of you that know Mr. Anderson know that he'll be on top of, on everything, and they can't, without a fire sign off, they can't operate this thing anyway, so ultimately. So I don't know if there are any other questions of Mr. Casali or Mr. Katsilas. This is where Mr. Katsilas was supposed to get up in the presentation. But he did a great job. Again, we have a situation where, as the solicitor has pointed out, is permitted by special use permit. You're sitting as a zoning board, the special use permit with these specific and objective criteria that's not required by statute have all been met. Special use permit, basically, it's not like a variance. It's basically, this is okay as long as you meet all of these objectives and these criteria. So then it becomes basically as a matter of right because they've all been met. With respect to the area and the discussions on the fencing, I think that Mr. Gitzilas did a good job pointing out the site itself, when you look at it and what, the areas as far as the opaque fence go, on the sides, you really have adequate screening, I think, in the natural buffer. I think that we, and jurisdictionally, as you pointed out, DEM is also obviously we're in a permit process with DEM as well for the disturbance there. And Mr. Katsilas has, as he also pointed out, has done a lot of his own planting in the area. I think based on my discussion with the town planner, I'm hopeful that, that prior to preliminary plan, we are able to figure out how we can at least satisfy the planning department's desire to at least put some trees back that's been taken down. I don't know how far that's going to go. Certainly, we're not going to propose a robust and continuous row of trees. That is something that we're not interested in. Quite frankly, given the site and given the amount of area, and also most of it lot was taken down is already basically grown back. I think Mr. Katsilas also pointed that out as well. So we are, as you know, we're here for not only the special use permit, we're here also for master plan, conceptual approval. And based on the information you received this evening, if there are any other questions, again, we're still here in Fusion, as well as Mr. Casali and Mr. Katsilas. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ponnington.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
A resident just texted me. He wants to be sure that we understand that the fire happened at 35 Martin Street, which is on the north side of Martin Street, not at 30 Martin Street. So we were using those addresses interchangeably, so I'm just making that clarification.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald, do you have another?
Is that saying that the building we were talking about does not have solar panels on its roof?
They both have solar panels. One on the south side is the new reuse of the mill building that Mr. Macari owns. On the north side, I don't know what's there. It's, but it, yes.
Which is now a pet food.
Okay, so we had a solar panel fire, but we were just using the wrong address.
They both have solar panels, but the one with the reused mill building that's being changed into offices, those are parking structure panels. On the one on the north side is actual roof panels on the building, and that's where the fire was.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions at this point? At this point, I'll open up floor for public hearing. So if there's anyone that has any questions or comments at this point, please come forward to the podium, give us your name and your address for the record.
Hi, my name is Phoenix Witt. I'm at 624 Broad Street. This, Phoenix Witt. P-H-O-E-N-I-X. Witt, W-I-T-T. Thank you. This project is very literally in my backyard, 624 Broad Street. It's right at the intersection of Mendon Road and Broad Street. I would like to impress something that's been forgotten about this project, which is that it's not just about energy in our backyard. It's not just about what we're using that land for. It's also about the fact that climate change is an existential risk to our humanity. That means that all of our future, our children, our children's children, won't have any of the experiences, any of the good that we want from this project. If you're worried about fires, climate change has been causing more and more fires every year. Every year is the hottest summer on record, and you can remember every year. You see the news, it comes out. Now, you might say this is only one project. This is just a small project in Cumberland. This isn't going to change everything about climate change. But the truth is, every single one of these projects that comes out, every single time this happens, there's a massive move against it from all of the money, all of the disinformation that's come from climate change propagandists funded by fossil fuel billionaires. The truth is that if we want to make a difference, we need to show a precedent. Like you were just saying, we don't know of anything like this. It's scary. We don't know if that's happened before. The more that we make the decision that we do want green energy, the more that we make that decision and we show that it's okay, we can build that economy, the more others will follow suit. So this is about a lot more than just about some risks in zoning and the use of our land. It's about our future as a whole.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone in the queue?
If you'd like to speak to this item, click the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Please state your name and address for the record.
Carlos.
Hold on.
Nope.
Okay. Sir, go ahead.
My name is Carlos Catano. I live behind Angelo's at 40 Main Street in Cumberland. And I just wanted to voice my opinion about the idea. I spoke to the owners of Angelo's. I've lived up there 30 years, and I just wanted to say I was appreciative of the trees that were cut down, because there was a lot of overgrowth there. I appreciate the sunlight it brought in from my yard, and I have no objections to the site. The fence being meshed would help a lot, but other than that, I have no other objections. So I appreciate your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? The podium is blocking my view. So, Mr. Catano, I can't see you right now. Oh, I can see you. No. No, what I'm saying is that it's very difficult for me to see over the podium. So until you stood up, I didn't even know you were sitting there. No, it's fine. Move. Is there anyone else? Okay. So at this point, I'll close the public hearing and restrict comments to the board.
Just a question for the solicitor. Do we need one motion for the special use permit and one for the master plan, or can they be combined to one?
No, you actually, but the state law says that you have to make your motion for the special use permit first under unified development.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion in regards to 127 Mendon Road that we approve the special use permit that has been requested based on the finding of facts in the Planning Department's memo dated November 25th, 2024.
Have a motion by Mr. Butler.
Second.
Oh, seconded by Mr. Scown. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes, the motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, also in regards to 127 Mendon Road, I'll make a motion that we approve the master plan application as it is consistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan with two conditions. One, that there be continued consultation between the applicant and the planning department to ensure that the height of the panels will not be visible from Main Street and adjacent properties. And two, that a landscape plan prepared by a Rhode Island registered landscape architect at the preliminary plan stage will be submitted and include an acceptable level of tree planting between the solar panels and the property line, as well as along Main Street sidewalk bordering the property. And the decision is based on the finding of facts in the planning department's memo to the planning board dated November 25th, 2024.
Have a motion by Mr. Butler. Second by Mr. McDonald. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes, the motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Happy holidays. A lot of useless information. Also, drainage calculations and so on. Oh, really? Mhm. Have to let them know. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Next item of business, public hearing. Public comment. Hearing none. Motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Rashich, seconded by the entire board. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Happy holidays to all.